YouTubers, patrons. It's the radiation. I've come to the only place I feel safe. It's me in a refuge. It's me in a refuge. It's the only place I feel safe. The black rain's falling, it's radioactive outside. I think I'm the only survivor. I don't think anybody else made it. All the Cortinas have gone. The rust has taken them away. There was a big explosion. We came in too quick, we weren't ready. Everything's gone, the rust has taken it all. Henry! Henry! Oh, so I'm getting a bit delirious. This room's getting scary by the minute. There's nobody. Everyone's gone. I'm down to my last tin of mackerel fillets. Actually, no, a reprieve, some sardines, and just thank the heavens we didn't forget the tin opener. I couldn't help telling you and sharing you some nice stories when we were doing the Cortina builds, before the dark times, before the Empire. I'd gone delirious on welding fumes. The MiG won't save us this time, not against the radiation. And that dust, that damn dreaded dust. Well, I can't help but to drift into these uneasy, cold sleeps and dream of swampy in cornfields and sunshine before the bad days. Swampy in cornfields and sunshine. Swampy in cornfields and sunshine.
Survey. That's Diana Ross and Ain't No Mountain High Enough. I'm Casey Kasem on AT40 in Hollywood. We've got 29 #1 records to go on our way to the #1 song of the 70s.
Casey Coast to Coast. The first song, Father Abraham, and before the #1, a full rundown of this week's Top 20. First time in at #20 for Rosalie and Thin Lizzy. #19, Dancing in the City.
Number 28, here's one of those hits. Paul McCartney and Wings with My Love. Number 28, here's one of those hits. Number 28, here's one of those hits.
It's time now that we've salvaged this door card. I don't think I actually showed you it getting salvaged, but I had to slowly unpick it from the door card material and then soak this in water. I think we showed that and then squished it flat, just so it was enough to give us this template. And now we've got the Maestro Ricky on the jigsaw, and we're going to just pencil this out. This rear door card, we're going to make two. I'm presuming that if you flip that, it's actually a mirror image of them, so we should be able to do two off one card, I hope. Let's see how we get on. Get the jigsaw in this. We're going to just do the main surround first, then spray can on the indents there.
Anybody staying within reach of fallout for too long can fall ill or die. So you must keep away from fallout until it is safe, and this may mean staying in your fallout room for up to 14 days. Prepare yourself for this now by storing all the things you need. Put them in your fallout room or stacked up within easy reach close by. Here is a list of the most important things you will need. Drinking water. Food, mostly in tins. Portable radio and spare batteries. Toys for children. Books and magazines to pass the time. Clock and calendar. Finally, don't forget your booklet, Protect and Survive. It tells you how to make your home and family as safe as possible. All the items we've just told you about are listed in it.
Well, here we are in a very exciting place to be. With the help of Andy, the lens, we've got the gearbox and engine underneath the car with the cradle and everything in it. So it's on its engine mount, so you can just see in the middle of your screen, towards the back of the screen, if you will, if it's 3D, go back over that way. You see the engine block on its mounts, and that pushes the gearbox back into here around the area that we're aiming for. And we want to be getting the distance of the tail cone just the right height from the top of the chassis, the body shell, the centre section, the transmission tunnel rather. We want to be getting that at a height which is suitable for the angle, to the relative angle to the axle flange plate. Okay, so when we connect the prop shaft, we want to be in a position where both angles, the angle coming out of the end of the gearbox and the angle going into the actual axle input splines, or the actual clamp plate, the face of the axle, where you bolt on your prop shaft flange, they need to be in an area where you can set the angles such that you don't get any axle prop shaft whipping effect. So the UJs, the universal joints, need to be offset by equal amounts. And I like to work between 1 and 3 degrees offsets. So if this was to point down 3 degrees, the axle would be pointing up 3 degrees. Or if this was pointing up 3 degrees, axle would be pointing down 3 degrees. In other words, always exactly opposite. Never the same, because the needle bearings in the UJs like to be slightly, at least a degree out. Helps the needles bearings spin. You can run them completely parallel, but it's better to run just slightly offset, as long as the offset angle is opposite, because then the force generated at this end is cancelled by the opposite force at the axle end, which creates a smoother drivetrain. We're going to have a single piece prop. So I learnt that on Ruby. It took quite a long time to get to that stage when you're fitting an A4 box into a Mark III Cortina. It's 115mm longer. I think that, don't quote me on the 115, but I believe it is 115 from my memory of doing Project Ruby. If indeed you've not seen Project Ruby and you're new to the videos, then scrolling back through my video collection, you'll find Project Ruby, and about towards the end of the series, it's where we start lining up the prop shaft. It wasn't extensively covered because it was an R&D mission involving the motorway a lot of the time and a lot of movement. The net result was I ended up having to move the tail shaft higher up to get the vibration-free running that I wanted, and it's pretty smooth now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Ruby, because that's our template. I'm going to measure the distance that the gearbox tail housing sits away from the top of the transmission tunnel, and that's our target. Then we're going to allow 5mm either way adjustment in the way that we make the bracket. The adjustment will probably be done by making the block, the rubber block that this sits on, adjustable rather than the entire bracket, so you'd actually be just packing out or dropping down your block. So this will start 5mm lower, the block will take it level, then a spacer block would take it 5mm higher if we needed to. And that's how we're going to make the adjustments. The centralisation of the output shaft, hold on, the centralisation of this is almost starting to guide itself, in that if I move this to the right now, it keeps trying to spring back to the middle, and I move it to the left, it keeps trying to spring back to the middle again. So the actual engine cradle and blocks are trying to force this into the middle, so it kind of like settles on its own, if you will. Again, we could make a little bit of adjustment in that. So centralising the output shaft, and then making it so that we've got a degree of adjustment up and down, say for 5mm, and then we'll be using some protractors. I've got a digital protractor which you place on the face of this. Once you put you're going to use a blank prop shaft insert so that I can stick the magnet on it, and we have a little digital protractor which will give us a readout, but that only works when the car's on its wheels, or if you indeed had the axle on. Now we haven't got the axle in place, which makes it tricky. We could hang the axle here, but it's all going to change when it sits on its own body weight, so that's really not possible. It's going to have to be done when the car's on its wheels. So we just need to get the mount brackets made and welded in position. Now you might say, why did I paint this? I think Pete H mentioned that, but I was painting anyway. I'll just rub back, weld on or bolt on, then repaint. It's not finished. I mean, yes, there's the sound pad inside. I have to cut that little piece out, but that's not really a big deal. We haven't finished the final Gravitex under here. That's the reason why this is now getting done, because we are ready for Gravitex and we're ready for door gapping. We've done our multitasking, we've done all our galvanizing. I mean, we do have to send some stuff off to Chrome in this little bucket and the bumpers and things, but at least we've got everything in position and ready to go for those outsourcing jobs. So a majority of the outsourcing jobs that were time critical have been sort of addressed, which means I can now come back to this where I left off. That's really a little synopsis of what's going on. Leave this with me now, because I'm going to get the rubber mount cup that fits in this, and I'm going to start going out and getting the measurement from the tail shaft to the top of the transmission tunnel off Ruby. I need to go to Ruby now. We'll catch you in a sec. Join me underneath as I continue this mock-up. There's the horseshoe bracket that I'm going to use, the horseshoe gearbox mount cross member. It's actually a Cortina one, I think. And then the original mounts off Bramble, which I was pleased about, we kept them, and I've chopped them just roughly to suit, so that they're just hovering within a mil of almost touching the car, and they're going to be used now to get some tacks on to give us the fixing points for the bracket. And then what I'll do, once they're fixed in position with a couple of tacks, just so they can't move or twist, I'm then going to make over plates, covering plates, which are specially profiled in to match this shape here, and they'll go on top of this and be seam welded on. Obviously we'll have to take the paint off around that area when we get the welds going, but these create the platform, and they're the first part of actually making the brackets. You could cardboard template this whole thing out right now, but what I'm going to do, it's easier to just get some tacks on here to remove the engine out, then roll the car, then complete the operation with it on its side. It's going to be a lot easier that way. So this just gets us that position that we needed. It was all about just getting that there as it is. That's the whole point of putting the engine in. I'll go back to the engine mounts themselves in the cradle and just make sure that everything's settled and pushed in, just in case it's trying to push back a little bit. I've also got the gear selector in. You can just see the gear selector lever down there, making sure that this doesn't foul it and there's enough clearance. And then our theory is to create, we're at max height, so actually we want to come down, and that'll be created by a packing spacer between there and there to create the height that we want to get the ideal angle, pinion angle. So you start off as high as you can physically go, and you can only come down lower and decrease that gap. So that's really the theory. full height is achieved without the shims, and then as you come down to get the height that you want, you shim it out, and that should work quite well. So that's what we're going to do. It's well done now. We'll tack these in, and the whole engine out. I'm going to have to try and lift that out on my own, then roll the car. Okay, I'm just manoeuvring, manhandling out the block, the bell housing, the gearbox and the tail shaft. Got it on this trestle there. I just lifted from the front cradle out and then just rested it on there. We're just about balanced, so we're going to take the block off the bell housing now and lift the block separate. So we're in two pieces, a bit easier to manoeuvre out, and then we're done. Then we can spin the car. You can just see the mounts there now sitting there looking a little bit factory, to be fair. Okay, let's get them welded up anyway. Let's get this out of the way, then spin the car and we'll weld them brackets and make those trim pieces so they look like the part of the car. Here we go. Great stuff. Alright, so approaching from this angle, that's how it looks. We've made sure that the brackets give us central positions on the ovals, because there's a little bit of room then to move around. So that's the boomerang in. And now we can get on and get busy and get some more welds on. The paint, it's reasonably low burnt back. I'm not going to grind the paint off the other side. There's no sound pad on the other side. I've obviously thought ahead and left it off. So I'm just going to clean up from this side, let a bit of fumes kick up from the back of it and burn the paint. Alright, got the door open for that one, I'll have the mask on. So we'll just get some more securing welds on these, and then it's time to just shape a piece of metal. Let's stand back, I was too close for you then. That just fits in to there, and then we'll seam weld across, then an infill sort of triangle shape, same on this side. So a little bit of tin to cut and shape, and then really they should be nice and solid. They'll probably end up looking pretty factory actually, to be fair, especially when we seam seal them in. So lots of little triangles just to cut and get in, but we'll get some good solid welds on first, and then we'll make sure it's nice and strong. So that's the gearbox mount, nothing like as bad as I was expecting it to be. Okay, welding time then, and tin snips. Here we go. Okay, I'm busy making up all these little infill pieces just to lock in to the sides. We've got one going out that way, seam welded across there, welded down there, this one to go into there like that, forming a box section. I've just been using the good old cereal packet, good old Blue Peter style. If you're from outside of the UK, Blue Peter was a kids program in the 70s and 80s where you made things out of egg cartons. Yeah. So that was done using various templates. What I do, cut little serrations in the card, and you can offer it up, make like a comb effect, bring it in and fold it to shape. As various techniques. Suffice to say that this is now ready to weld into position. We've only got one more to do that side then. Alright. Should fit, and it does, no problem. Welder going on, this going in. Here we go. We said the welder was finished. No, 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 no. There's still time to weld. Still time to weld. Yeah. Still time to weld. Welding days are not over. Got to nick your light, sorry about that, but I need it. Pop that on there. I want to. You can see why I hate working out with it. A tip like that. Tosser. Tosser. Goes something like that. Here we go, we're all done. So I've seam sealed and we've just repainted them in to see how they blend in. Put a couple of holes in there as well to make it look a little bit more factory, hoping you like. One serves as a drain hole, the other is to get the wax oil in so you can stick the lance in there, and it also looks like a little bit intentional build, like a factory panel that's got a hole in it for some reason. Anyway, they blend in nice. I'm quite pleased with the results. If you stand back and look, I think you're really not going to stand out. If I stand back, these don't stand out. That's what I was trying to say. I get confused with my words so easily. So that job is complete. We go over and just grab the bracket. Let's grab the bracket off here, paint mask, hang that up. That's finished with probably for a long time. There's our boomerang. Can't remember which way round it went, but it goes either way anyway. Can't remember how I set that up. Hold on, one hand is grabbing the boomerang. So, onto there, and onto there. So we're nice and central. And like I said earlier on in the clip, I'm going to be creating shim spacer packs anyway for this. It's not actually going to sit direct on. It'll probably come back. It may do. If it does, then the gearbox is at the top of its maximum upward adjustment. But based on Ruby, it comes down probably 4mm or 5mm spacer pack would do this. Although these mounts are different to Ruby's mounts. It's done with a different cross membrane. That's totally different. This way is a big improvement on how I did it, because they're both just they fit better with these flat boomerangs. Ruby's got a concave, no, not concave, like a dog-legged bracket similar to the one I looked at earlier when I was doing this. Okay, and these flat ones work better. They just allow the mounts to sit in a better position. Of course you have to make those little infill pieces for them, but at least when you finish off and skim them in, you get that. Okay, so that job is done. We can mock that up onto there if we wanted, and that's it. Okay, we're going to move on to another task. I'm not quite sure, other than tidying up, exactly where I'm headed now. This subframe not needed to be in the car. It's best to take it out and get it wrapped up safe. The only thing we could perhaps do is to reposition the gearbox and get the linkage arm working, because that's easy to do when the car's on the rotary. When I talk about linkage arm, I'm talking about the T-bar selector has to be cut and shut with the A4's attachment, and has to be cut just at the right length to give the range of gears. The only problem with that is you've got to have a real gearbox, and that dummy gearbox of mine hasn't got any engagement systems in it because it's stripped out, so I wouldn't know the detents, and you really need to know the detents. So perhaps we can't do that maybe. The last time I did it on Ruby was with the car on its dolly jig, and then I manoeuvred the gearbox, it was very heavy, into the car and did it that way. We don't actually have to fit the engine because the mounts are in. You could just have it propped up here and you'd still get the detent. So we can do that actually. We can get one of the boxes I've got outside, which are complete but just for spares, and slide the gearbox under the car, not needing the engine attached to it, and jack it up and then have it bolted on like this, and then you could then adjust it. So maybe I've done that. I never thought of doing that. Okay, let me get on with something else. Tidy up and I finish for tonight. It's approaching 7 o'clock. Our motorcraft clock has stopped, so don't be using the reference for that. It chews through batteries. Actually, there is a battery on the shelf there. We'll put motorcraft clock back in action because people will notice. See you tomorrow. Good job on them mounts, by the way. If I do say so myself. What do you reckon? Let the multitasking continue. with Gravitex. I've gone for Gravitex over Raptor, just a personal choice. When I look at Swampy, 34,000 miles and not a scratch. The finish is good, I like it, I'm sticking with what I know. It's Gravitex time. Easily applied, goes on a treat. Very nice finish. Oh, hell yeah. We'll just take it a little bit at a time, working the quarters, taking it nice and easy. Very easy to apply with a Schutz gun. My mask goes on any second now. I just kept it back a little bit, but it's nice and breezy. If you look outside of it, you hear everything blowing around in here. You'll see we've got plenty of ventilation. So, but I will have the mask on. I just left the mask off just for a second whilst we did some commentary, but you can see that this is the name of the game now, because it's the last operation that the car needs while it's on its side. Reason we go to Gravitex now. We've been waiting to do those lovely gearbox mounts there that we did last night, so that paved the way for us to go forward and get this applied. Just like that. There you go. We have to remember as well, around these holes here, we're going to mask those up, because otherwise we're going to get overspray, including these seatbelt points as well. So really, I just wanted to see if my compressor was up to the job of pumping this through, which it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and mask up any holes that may let the Gravitex enter the cabin. We don't want that, because it's we're keeping it clean inside. So Gravitex then, everybody. Almost finished the underside of the shell. This is overpaintable, by the way, in Silver Fox. Something odd for you to look at. Back into the R&D. No, it's not R&D. This is the stores, but it will be R&D department as well. But what the hell are you asking yourself? What on earth's going on? Oops. What on earth's going on in there? It's actually not oops, because I want it under this liquid. This is our dashboard preparation device, a bit like a cradle. And here's the hand that rocks it. So we take you down and dirty into the eye of the storm. Well, that's me console clock surround gauge pods, which has got to be rechromed. Now, to rechrome it, we've got to first strip it back, because the plastic chromers, they like the parts to be completely paint and glue free. So we've just used a solution of brake fluid, amongst other things, which starts to strip your dash down into its component form. And you can see indeed here, I've not got my gloves on, only because I've just come out to inspect it, but you'll see now everything just breaking down and breaking away. Look at that. We've used some chemicals to get this off, and that shows you how Ford actually built the clocks. They actually over painted or over chromed, plastic chromed the entire fascia, and then masked off and painted in the colour scheme and the Fablon, if you want to call it Fablon, the wood grain effect, and then painted everything in accordingly. So that's how they did it. But this needs rechroming, so that we get some nice chrome details around the clocks, and the nice chrome beading around it. And the only way to do that is to get a good finish on your dash, because we're doing the dash to a very high standard. And we're going to spare no expense with the dash. We want to get it better than Ruby's dash. For that reason, we go to town on this now and completely get it back. So I've been working in conjunction with the plastic chromers and following the instructions that they want me to undertake, in order to give them the piece of plastic that will work best and give the best results. So we're going to send this away soon, along with some other dashboard parts. There's the 4 pod clocks. We need to chrome the ashtray surrounds. I'll show you those later. They need to go into this solution, in fact. So this has worked. It stripped it back. You need to leave that for 24 hours for it to work. Combination of chemicals and a bit of brake fluid just to get the paint off. The thing is with that it doesn't attack the plastic. Thinners won't work. WD-40 does work, but it takes a lot longer, and you need to, if this tub was full of WD and you left that in it, it would break down the glue, but it wouldn't break down the paint. So you have to go through various processes to eventually get this stripped. But I've done it without any physical input other than sloshing it, which means that then you don't scratch or mark anything as you're trying to take off the old decals and stuff. So combination of Jai's WD-40 brake fluid all together ended up in a 3-stage process, and this thing ended up being stripped back, as I said, only by sloshing it around in the tank. So that's that piece. We don't need to do that process with any of the other plastic parts, I don't think, although maybe the ashtrays maybe need the paint taken off them. We need to look at all the parts that we're going to get plastic chromed, get them parcelled up and get them sent off, because it's all part of the multitasking. Just behind me in the cardboard box, some of the parts from Ruby coming into play. Alright, so we need to get, here's the radio console, we need to get that into the galvanizing box. That must go in. Well, it's quite clean as it is, to be fair, so's that, but that could go in. So we keep looking at all the parts that we need. Alright, always on the lookout to make sure that we get them boxes off to the galvanizers chock full, so we don't have a second trip there. Okay, let me give this a clean down now, because it's ready to wash down. Speaking loud over the music, some more parts for plastic chroming. These are the little cigarette trays in the back door cards, ashtrays. Just this door card, you saw us earlier cutting out one of the templates. We actually cut both, so we've got this one as well. You can see how warped that is. Talking loud, as I say, I don't want the radio picking up. We're going to get this out and then into the paint strippers. Okay, so that's going to join the rest of the dashboard parts in that stripping tub you just saw in white. That's white stripping tub. Here we go, the rest of the parts. We're now testing plastic adhesion using the colour bond and making sure that we get, with the ruby interior, that we get a good adhesion to the plastic. So scratch testing now with different prep solutions to get this plastic scratch proof on the, or scratch proof as you can. Plastic is non-porous, so paint doesn't like going into it, but you can see this now needs a 24 hours before you do the scratch test. Initial tests, we're able to take it off there. That was only 10 minutes after it had gone on, so it shows that curing is important for the colour bond. Now I can get it off there, but it's not like it was. It's gone really tough. And here where we prepped even harder, let me get it between my knees because I'm just ad-libbing a little bit. Where we prepped it even harder, this is really tough now. So I'm pleased now with the durability of that finish. This is a little test piece of plastic. We could strip this back down and use this piece if we wanted. It's not Bramble's, but it's a spare that I've got. It's in complete order as well, no breaks in it. So this is a candidate if Bramble's is damaged, but I don't think it is. So used on that colour bond, which is matched in with my paint scheme. Colour bond from a company called Technispray in Birmingham, UK. And you send them your swatch, and we did this with a trim, that basket weave trim that you saw us, that brick weave trim you saw me painting actually on the side of the car there. You saw the products from them, and one of them was a rattle can with this colour code in. Ruby is a two-tone scheme, at least it is in my car, whereby your dash parts are darker than the seats, so that's why there's two colours. So I sent off two colour swatches. One was taken from the armrest of Ruby's Bramble's back seat. In fact, actually it was Ruby's back seat that I took the sample from, or was it Bramble's? Bramble's back seat gave Ruby's interior colour scheme, so we're now back to Bramble, if that makes any sense. When I got Ruby, it was not a Ruby interior, but Bramble was a Ruby interior, so I used the swatches from Bramble's car to create Ruby, and Ruby really was a test bed for the Ruby interior on Bramble, if that makes any sense. That was the whole point of building Ruby, or one of the points of building Ruby, was to prove and try and test the system of paint and interior colour scheme design for this two-door car. And Ruby ended up becoming a force of its own in the end, but really Ruby was all just a test for this and this colour scheme and this A4 box, and that's why this has gone one level higher. So I hope that makes some sense. Great, this is really good. It's better than the two-pack finish because it's much more matte and much more plastic looking original rather than too shiny when you get the two-pack on there. I've used two-pack on some of the plastics before I perfected this idea. If you get that plastic really clean and you use that colour bond, not vinyl coat, different colour bond, there's two types of paint which they supply. Vinyl coat for doing the actual, as it says, vinyl, the inlays of your seats, the bolsters of your seats, or indeed whatever you're colouring that's vinyl. Then colour bond, which is designed to go on ABS plastics. So look at that, that's great. So we're good to go there. So you can colour any colour scheme. If you've got an olive green interior, Marcus blue interior, a tan interior, you can use the Technispray paint system. Okay, now then, these are the ashtrays out the back door cards, and those cigarette butts there are genuine article cigarette butts. Okay, now if I was to take this out, hold on, I'm just going to turn the radio down. You'll see a lot of mess around here because I'm having a big dust down and clear up, sort of halfway stage clear up, so the shelves are all getting stripped back, everything's coming out of here and everything's getting dusted then put back in. So and there's Wayne Eck. What a kind guy to send us this. Look what Wayne sent us, a lovely jamboree of pipes, clips and brake pipe fittings which we've been using. Wayne, what a man. It's been in stores, not needed to look at it yet, but we're starting to get to the point where we're going to look at that. What a man. I'm going to thank him personally when I see him for that little present that he sent me, because Wayne, we're going to be using them for all these bits. There, thank you. Now then, these, let me clear my throat. It's dusty in here, you know. These are genuine cigarette butts. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to worry about taking the paint off. Look how the chrome people chromed the edge of these cigarette ashtrays. Okay, and it's all flaked off, so we need to get that back on there. To do it, completely strip all that back to bare plastic. And the backing piece isn't chromed, that's just colour schemed in. So it's only the inside lay, and then they almost hand painted these inlays there with the darker part of the colour scheme. So we've got to take that all to pieces and strip the paint off it. So removing this out, we've got genuine articles. I don't think I looked in these when we did the Bramble strip down. A sweet wrapper, okay? Now if we were really forensic we could find out what that is. There's actually no markings on that sweet wrapper. Here is a little tag, I don't know what that is. It says, hold on, it looks like child's writing, Fawn, Jacko, I can't tell if they're numbers, Jack-O, Fawn. What could that, oh, hang on, there was it, the answer on the back. Please look after this bear, thank you. So, off a toy. Now, the quality of that is such that I'm tempted to think this could be off a Paddington bear. It's not just, you know, it's an actual sort of quality label, if you will. I wonder what toy that was off. Things like that really interest me, by the way. And I know some people on YouTube also triggers the same response, where you just love going through all these little trinkets and the little capsules of time. I know this may seem absolutely totally insignificant to someone who wants to watch a car restoration program, but cars are just time capsules. So when you find things like this, little clues and tie-ins to the people who spent their days in the car, and they, in this case their youth in the car, nothing else in there. Here we have the cigarette butts, so not only children in the back, but adults or very naughty children who are smoking. I doubt that. So are these John Player specials? The DNA you could extract and find the true identity of the smoker. Now, with the aid of a magnifying glass we could bring this up. There's no gold pattern. I mean, I'm not a smoker or a connoisseur of cigarette butts. Can't tell. Smelling it to see if it's got that disgusting smell. All but faded. All but turning to carbon. Nope. I can't see, but look how someone stubbed that. Isn't it disgusting? If you do smoke, give up. It's carbon monoxide. Wow, who'd have thought we'd study a cigarette butt like one would study insects under a microscope, but slowly and surely they drew up their plans against us. Okay, we need to strip these down. We don't need to worry about those just yet. Look how Ford did it. The overspray just goes inside there. You can imagine that on a production line, someone doing a quick pass with a gun. Into we go. In we go. Where's that from? Okay, off with this. Off with this. Enough of that. That was a Bramble ramble. I just lost myself then. You'll see these stripped. So I'm collecting. That's what I'm trying to get to the point, man. I'm collecting all the things for the plastic chromers because I don't want to go there, send off a parcel. It's a pain in the derriere going to the post office for me anyway, because it's like 20 miles away. They've closed all our ones. And then find out that you've not put a part of plastic in. When it comes to our lovely rebuild, you've got me going to do another rebuild and the part not there. And it's a pain because there's a queue for the plastic chromers, there's a queue. You've got to get in the queue with your bits. So let's get in the queue. Come on. Okay, after that success with the plastic, we now can apply the procedure to the other plastic items that are coloured in that darker ruby red. So these are the backing housings for the ashtray. We've taken the covers off to be chromed. Now that middle bit doesn't matter if it's not been removed, because that's overpainted with this red. The outer bit's left as a chrome strip, so remove them from the actual carriers. They go into the box to be sent off. We can actually put some paint on. You see we've got some paint on there. So I just scotch pad. That's a scotch pad. It's a bit like a Brillo pad. Scotch pad the face after I've just put some thinners on it to clean any of the old paint off. Scotch pad that lightly, only very lightly. You don't want to put any marks in it. Buff it up a little bit. Then I'm using vinyl prep, very similar to PVC prep for your windows. You can use that, they do recommend it. For the colour bond process, you can use the PVC wipe chemical, which you use for cleaning PVC windows. Just takes off any residue and takes it back to clean plastic, all to do with polymers and plastics and stuff. Anyway, I'm not saying this is PVC, by the way, but it works. What's working for me is this onto there, and now I just hook it with this bit of brazing rod. Then I can hold it in my hand when it's hooked. That goes in, and then I can paint that and just lay it down, let that cure for a day, then wrap these and put them into storage as we start to assemble little kits of parts. Here's a seat trim piece. It's not actually rubies, brambles I mean. It's a spare one, but it's damaged. Found the brake cleaner makes that good, would you believe? Sorry, not brake cleaner, .4 brake fluid actually brings this up. I was actually trying to strip it, and actually instead of stripping it, it actually cleaned it. Look at that. Yeah. So would you believe .4 buffed that up better than anything I've ever tried to clean that one up. It's a shame that that's cracked. It's cracked on the inside, but we need to find Bramble's ones and do that process with those. So I'm continuing a bit of experimental paint work. Reason that this is a bit out of sequence is that I just wanted to know what worked and what didn't scratch off on the paint, so that I could be looking in the meantime and researching. As it happens, I don't need to do any more research because this system is good for the plastics. A little bit of paint on that, may as well finish it now it's there. Okay, some paint going on, give it a shake, and off we go. Light coats. Just a few minutes between them for this. A little bit tricky. I've got it hooked in one hand with a camera at the same time, but what's going on? You can see that. Keep it away from the Gravitex. I'm going to create a paint area now. I know what I'm up to. Okay, leave me with this. You can see the idea. Alright. So that's the cigarette ashtray housing for the back door cards, back quarter door cards. And wow, this took some stripping. Believe me, did this dash pod take some work. Lots of time and different chemicals to get everything off. That glue just didn't want to go. We've jet washed it now. See, the thing is, the chrome platers like the paint, they like the finish really smooth, because obviously it's all about prep. So we eventually got that pod done. So that's another job in the chrome selection. Still carrying on building up parts. It's a long old road getting these parts ready, because you want to make sure that you've got everything in the box for both chrome metal chromers and for the plastic chromers. So, and I found more stuff as well. I found the end of the indicator stalks. They've got little chrome caps on. They needed doing, so popped off. And I've got two indicators on. Well, not two indicators, but I've got two stalks on my car because of the cruise stalk. So 2 more caps, they just pop off, so that weren't too bad. So continuing on, I'll show you some more stuff. We've been doing those parts I'm talking about, jaws here. There's those end of the indicators, those square things, 2 door pins, the centre of the ashtrays, and sort of some seat adjuster knobs as well in chrome, because it's a deluxe car. We don't want to go too far with the chrome, but a couple of nice little touches here and there won't go amiss. And here's our very nice dimmable rear view mirrors I mentioned I might be doing for this project. So we've done it, we've stripped down. This is a really nice electronically dimmable mirror, which we're going to try and get into the same sort of styling as the Cortina. It's roughly the same shape, all mirrors are similar. It's a little bit bigger than a Cortina mirror, but then again, Cortina mirror was too small in my opinion. Often they were fitted with larger mirrors, especially taxi drivers. There's not a lot in it, to be fair, if you compare them. There's the Cortina one, bit rough that one. This stripped down, and the insides of it just here, coming into your screen now. There's the electronics. It's the new style of dimmable mirror. They're a bit more reliable, these. They don't have that liquid gel. I think it works slightly differently. Now I'm looking for a manufacturing name on this. I don't see one just yet. There is something under there. There is a label or something happening, but I'm not going to investigate it anymore, except to say for you that there's the sensor. When someone dazzles you, the mirror dims down. The old way would you'd flip your mirror. I'm constantly getting dazzled. There's a lot of nighttime driving, so I've decided to make this a Cortina mirror, and all you had to do was to take out the ball and socket and swap it out. I'll show you how we've done that if I come across. Just been working on the snap-on bench just a little bit. There's the front bezel. We may or may not chrome that front bezel. Here is the old ball and socket, with a much larger ball and socket than what a Cortina one uses, and it doesn't have a stalk on it. They fixed to the windscreen. Here's a Cortina stem, and this now has, I've made a little trim washer and fixed the ball and socket by basically putting the smaller ball and socket receiver into the larger one, then Q-bonding it, which is like a powdery super glue type resin, sets like rock. So that's super glued in, then the little plastic trim washer fits over the top, and the whole affair then goes, if we go over back to the mirror backing, the whole affair slots in the back like that, and the trim piece hides the fact that you've got a modification to it. Don't think I can mock it up. You'll see that getting built anyway. So we've got ourselves, and then it's colour coded in to give the car some contrast. You could have had it black, but against the white headlining, I don't know. Old cars in the 50s and 60s used to colour code the mirrors, and they stopped doing it. Funnily enough, Cortina mirrors aren't actually black, they're actually grey, and some were actually brown. If you look at this colour, this paint, that's similar colour. Looks grey there, but it's a grey brown. Some cars were, in the early 60s, mirrors were colour coded in. So I thought I'd give it a try to see what it looks like. If it's too much, I always put it back to black. But I think it'll work. And I think it with that chrome plated, because we're on the chromers, and again I've got 2 of these mirrors actually. What I've done is, if I didn't like this styling, I've made this actually unscrews out of the mirror, so you can transplant the actual adapter that I've built into another mirror base. If it looks too bling, this, or it looks too wrong in that colour, then we just get the exact same mirror that I've got, scrapyard, 10 quid. I don't think it's a Wingard this, I don't know who makes this, but it's a Famoco, so that's even better. It's come out of a Mondeo. And they've even kept the same Famoco logo. Wow. I actually never noticed that. Wingard used to do them. And there's another company as well, forget what, they're famous for doing electronic mirrors. Anyway, they come out of the scrapyard, and it was only 10 quid, and what I was going to do is just transplant this across to another mirror, exact same type, if I don't like the colour. That's really what I was saying. I went off track then and lost the plot. So we'll just see how it goes. This little magic eye window here, this is the day and night sensor, so it's not active in the daytime, so this shuts it off. And then the sensor in the glass is the one that picks up the fact that you've got, I'm not going to get that in, the fact that you've got someone high beaming you. So this controls the rate of how much it dims. Darker it is, the more it dims. That's what that little sensor does, it picks up inside on the circuit board. It's a great idea. I did have one in my Mondeo Titanium X, but now I've sold that and got another Mondeo, has just got a normal dipping mirror and I miss it. My Scorpio had this as well. I really like them. We'll put that back together, we'll send that away for blingy bling. Screw that back into there, that adapter that we've made for it, and we'll see what it looks like. If it looks a joke, it doesn't go in. We'll just have to see. I think it'll work personally. It's one of them where you're not going to know till you put it up in the car. Okay. Down we go to strip the axle bits. Of course I forgot all about those. There's me going off for powder coating and galvanising when we've got nuts and bolts and fittings and fixtures here on the end of the axle. So this is coming off rather nicely. So if you struggle taking off a stuck drum, copper hammer and a bit of leverage, strike it opposite sides and you'll get there. Now then, this shows signs. What's Bramble been up to in its past life? I see a Ford logo on the brake shoe, just there. So it's been serviced by Ford, or at least Ford parts have gone on it. First time I've ever seen some genuine Ford brake shoes. Not that there's wrong with most makes of brake shoes, they're pretty much all the same, but someone's fitted Ford items to this. We want to take careful note now that we recall the positions of all the springs and how they fit. So I have made this mistake in the past where I forgot where everything goes. Hardest job will be knocking the half shafts out because I need them backing plates blast cleaning. But first we're going to unpick the springs, put them in a box, get them galved as part of the brake drum fitting kit. Correctly pointed out on YouTube, you get more power if you don't use extension bars on your impact gun, but I wasn't anticipating those to be particularly tight, but I do anticipate the half shaft being tricky. We've got to bolt something to that now. We need a slide hammer really for this. Let's just see how it goes. It might be an easy one, you never know. Okay, if you're lucky and you've got an old wheel that you don't mind damaging, and I must stress, don't use the wheel you're never going to keep because you'll damage it. Strike opposite sides, strike once them bolts holding the backing plate are off and the bolts holding the flange plate of the half shaft. And if you're lucky, we was, strike and you'll pull the half shaft out. There's the bearing. I'm just touching that now. Once you've got those four out there, but it doesn't always work. We're lucky today. You might need a slide hammer to do it, or a puller. So we got it, but you can see the impact on the rim there. We've lost a rim, but it was a scrap wheel, already a buckled wheel, that one. So we've got one half shaft out now. It's going to start losing oil as soon as I move it, so a cloth down, then we're going to undo the drain plug, or the fill plug actually, and then I've got the axle on its back, which is what we need. then just using my handy Clarkson drain device, I'm hoping I can get in past the differential gears and into the sump. We may not be able to do it. We may not be able to get past the actual gears with that size tube, but we could swap the tubes around. Let's see if we can do that, get the thinner tube and just dodge around it. Just about gets it, really need the bigger tube. It will go though. You could just undo, you could just loosen the back plate and put a catch can under if you want as well. This will go. Yeah, say you should, normally the pickup pipe would be the larger size pipe, but just because the wheels are in the way, let's drain this out now. Just makes life a bit easier for me. And pull them half shafts, we're not going to get covered in it. Here we go. Given the high mileage or suspected high mileage on the car, could well be this axle's noisy. Or you never know, they might have put a new axle on it. They've spent money on the car everywhere else, so with any luck, it'll be a quiet axle. Failing that, we'll get it rebuilt. I'm going to run it and just see how it is without touching it. Then, if I have to, we'll go for a rebuild. That's the way the brakes were set up anyway. So that's a good bit of reference material for anyone out there doing theirs. That slightly larger diameter, thicker wound spring at the bottom, and then there's your brake adjuster, automatic adjuster ratchet with the pawl at the back, slightly smaller diameter coil spring at the top, and then that little horseshoe clip, flipping it over, handbrake remnants of the handbrake cable just by my fingers going into that operating lever there, and another spring at the back which forms the tension on the ratchet pawl, and that's it. That's your brake setup. So I'll photograph both sides now. We've got a record of that, because you know what, when you get all these back home from stripping and cleaning and replating, you can forget where everything goes, like I did last time. Okay, the fluid's drained out, and the bashing technique on this side also worked. We're straight out there, so strike and strike, just use a little lump hammer, and then there's the rear bearing coming out of the casing. So now we can take the wheel off and then strip back that backing plate and put the shaft back in, because this is getting shot blasted next. With most of the axle nicely stripped down, it's time for one last job. The top bushes, the top void ones come out nice. Let's just hope this one follows suit and comes out, and then that's the axle done. Both half shafts go back in so that no grit can get in when we shot blast. We need to remember to bung up the vent tube there, that's the breathing vent, and the same at that end, the half shaft knocked back in. Just this extraction job then to do. Let's see if we can blast this out of here. Let's send this home. Let's see what we can do. Let's blow this out. Okay, there's little cutouts in there. Just get that on the end of there first before you offer it up to the bush, like that. We're ready to rock. This will find a nice place that's happy. These gloves are done a good day's work. They're just about to go. Right, so we're lined up there. Let's see what we get. Okay, straight out. No problem. That was good. Right, that completes the axle strip down. Okay, with the axle stripped, it's time to get back down to packaging up some stuff. I've made up a jobs list of things to be done, and there it is, a little mini working board. The outsourcing jobs on there, so chrome, plastic chrome, hybrid dipping engine, ceramic coating, passivating, brakes, trim, powder coat, more stuff to do. And there it is, axle blast. But while I was doing that, my little inclinometer arrived. Have a look at this. Here's something you'll like. Okay, so we've got a little digital, this is for setting up the flange angles on the gearbox and the pinion drive of the back axle, but you can measure any angle you want with it. I can't quite get you there. Let's go through and see what we get. 21.8. Let it stabilise. 6, 7. 21 degrees incline. Now these trestles are independent of each other, so they're both in the chassis legs of the car. If the car is totally square and parallel to itself, then both angles will be around 21 degrees, and there you go, 21. So we've got 0.5 of a degree difference, which is nothing in the scheme of the car. So in other words, if I tip this shell to 90 degrees, in fact, let's try another trick. Let's try, can we go parallel? I know you could do this with the spirit level, almost parallel there, just stabilising. So at the front would also be parallel if the car is parallel with each end. 1.6, 1.5. So we've got a degree, which is absolutely nothing, and it could always be down to the actual way that the jig's just in the front bumpers. But basically what we're saying is go in the middle. We're on a slight incline there, so I'll go to the ends, 1.2. And the same area here coming back where the chassis exits is virtually in the same place. 0.3, so a degree of difference between the front and the back on the whole car, which is good. So in other words, if I tilt it to 90 degrees, okay, which would be 0 on this, hang on, which would be 90 degrees on this, there, well that's 45, don't get it, hang on, I think it goes for 0, doesn't it? 5, oh it'd be 0, I think it'd be 0 to be completely parallel. Perpendicular rather, with the floor is 0. To be 0.0, around that area. There you go. The display automatically flips when it reaches the other side of the angle. You can see it's hovering around 0, so that's vertical. So the car, whatever it is on the verticals, is the same both sides, and we can't get a vertical on here. You're relying on the box section of the jig that way. Your best way to do it is just any flat surface, which you could say is the boot. So look, the boot's 0.6, then you'd have to pick a flat surface at the front, which the slam panel's curved, so that's a difficult one. I'm trying to think of where would be curved. Not curved, I mean flat. Middle of the slam panel maybe. 1. Okay, that middle of the slam panel's about flat. So you're at 1 degree, which is fair, a fair way of doing it, I think. This is very much interesting fun. climb up and do the parcel shelf perhaps, although now I'm messing with the car because I just tilted it. I'll mess that up. I suppose the only flat space I suppose would be the boot floor, which now says 7.9, which ain't right. Jig. Maybe the slam panel's not good. I'll go jig to jig. 5.7, alright? Go jig to jig. 5.6, 5.7, because that is on the chassis legs. But this is interesting stuff. So we've got 5.7 middle of that jig. Slam that on there. And 6.6. So there's that degree that we get. So it is 1 degree difference in the front line to the back of twist, or whatever you get, but I would say you probably get that in any car. So it just means that we've done it right, which is good news. Very happy about that. Basically what you got is a straight shell. It's a Burger King that. Look, you can see the fries on the dash.
Oh yeah.
And she's got 2 burgers. Look, 1 burger there and then another. Oh no, that's a chicken. Look, spicy chicken. Look, with mayo, double mayo. Oh, the mayo's pouring out the side. I'm sure she's got 2 burgers, you know. I couldn't think of anything worse. Stuffing your face with junk food.
The window's open.
And then spending the rest of your time on Facebook. A lovely day out. That's it, go on, send them texts. Send that crap. Go on. There you go. Had your McDonald's now. Yeah. There you go. He's had enough in the back, just crashed out. Kids completely.
There's a massive box of paracetamol on the back, so I bet they've been to a festival.
That's something dodgy going on in that car, I'm telling you.
I bet they've been to a festival.